Now, it's been 4 weeks, can't even believe it's been 4 weeks since the US election. Donald Trump has been almost invisible, but very active on Twitter, of course. He's been accused of being holed up in the White House while his legal team, continues to pursue legal cases challenging the result. There have been some Republicans like Chris Christie and Paul Ryan who've spoken out, but you know, largely from the official Republican leadership, it's been pretty quiet. Aaron, do you think this is out of respect for Trump? Are they simply allowing him to have his, right to challenge the result that he's entitled to have, particularly because he has proven to be so popular as president and that he may well run again in 2024?
Well, Sherry, I think they're absolutely terrified of Trump, and Trump has taken over the Republican Party, and this result, in a paradoxical way, has almost sort of strengthened him in the Republicans because he got such a huge vote, 70 million people. And so, he's not the spent force, even though he's lost the election. But there was a really interesting article today in the Washington Post which sort of explained what's going on in Trumpland. And the Post says is that the last week, the Trump forces were convinced they were going to win. And this was heading right up until election night, until Fox News called Arizona for Biden. And then Trump said to Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, get Rupert Murdoch on the line and get him to change their call. Of course, Fox refused to do that. And we've seen subsequently the Trump forces decide to try and manufacture this farce of the conspiracy, and apparently Trump is obsessed with this idea that the voting machines were deliberately set to miscount his votes for Biden. So really quite amazing stories starting to emerge about what's going on there.
Yeah, of course, you never know whether you can completely trust the stories because the media in the US is more partisan than our media here, but nonetheless, fascinating stories. I mean, there's also reports that claim that, and Cam Stewart in the Oz has written this, that Trump wants to leave office as an aggrieved martyr rather than a defeated one-term president. But Troy, I find it really interesting. Speaker Paul Ryan is questioning Trump's actions in fighting the election result. He's saying that it could damage the faith of many Americans in the democratic process. He says it's now time to respect the will of the people. Do you think this is right, or is it fair that Trump, is able to continue his legal avenues if he's concerned with the voting results?
Well, Sherry, of course, he's perfectly entitled to challenge the election results and the election process, but almost all of his court cases have gone absolutely nowhere. And we're now into a situation where judges are criticising the Trump campaign for the weak case that they're making in court. And just a few days ago in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said they had not actually presented evidence that one single mail-in vote had been wrongly cast or had been wrongly counted. So Trump's cases are going nowhere, but he does have a right to put them. And because the United States is so polarised and so divided, I think it's important that this process plays out in a normal way, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. But I don't think that there's any doubt about the outcome here. I mean, Joe Biden has won this election convincingly and clearly. He has now 51% of the vote. There's now about a 4-point vote margin, 6 million vote margin. He won a lot of the swing states quite comfortably by tens of thousands of votes in the Rust Belt and in the Sun Belt. So there's no doubt about the outcome of the election, but I think to help try to bring Americans together, they've got to try to deal with this process and let Trump sort of run his cases through the courts, even though they're doomed to fail. What's happening in the Republican Party now is very interesting because we know Donald Trump's been defeated, but Trumpism hasn't been defeated. And so Republicans are very, very conscious about all those people, 70 million or so, as Aaron said, who voted for Trump. And where do they go next? The Republican Party wants to keep them. And so just a week or so ago, I interviewed former National Security Advisor John Bolton. He's someone who wants to help recalibrate the Republican Party, but he doesn't want to lose those Trump voters. So what we're seeing, in short, is a number of Republicans are too scared of Trump, but those that are willing to speak out don't want to lose those Trump supporters as they try to reshape the party in the next few years.
Yeah, look, very difficult. And we'll see if Trump does get to that point where he gives a traditional concession speech, or perhaps it'll just continue to unfold on Twitter. Either way, we'll be watching. Look,